Hello, everybody. This is Joseph P. Farrell. It is Friday, April the 15th. This is news and views from the Nefarium for this weekend. I do have some announcements and a commentary on some stuff I've been digging around on the internet about Japan. So let's do the announcements first. For those of you who are wondering, Genes, Giants, Monsters, and Men is out. There's the book. It is official. Amazon has posted the fact that they should be releasing the book about, I think April 21st was the last time I checked. So I think what that means is Amazon is just waiting for their copies of the books to come from the distributors. So probably it may even be in Amazon's warehouses, but their system takes a while to update. So anyway, the book is out. I know that a lot of you have been waiting very patiently for it, and I apologize that it has taken so long, but it's a nice book. It's Farrell House and Adam Parfrey did a wonderful job with the book. So I hope everybody enjoys it, and like always, I hope that it'll give you some food for thought. And again, I want to remind people that I'm tossing ideas out there. I'm not trying to tell people what to think, tell people what to believe, how to act, so on and so forth. It's just ideas for consideration. But anyway, the book is out, and I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that fact. And I just got my own copies last week, so Farrell House is trying to get them moved through the system as fast as they can. The other announcement I had is I am finishing up this weekend the new book, which is going to be published by Adventures Unlimited. That's called The Grid of the Gods. And that book subtitle is called The Physics of the Pyramid Peoples. It's a kind of a study of the world grid system, but it's not anywhere near on the scale that many studies of the grid system have talked about in the past, because in my opinion it's such a large subject that we really need to kind of slow down in our speculations about the world grid and take things very slowly. So I'm concentrating in this book largely on a very, very few selected sites. I'm not talking about Stonehenge. I'm not talking about the North American sites other than Teotihuacan and Chichen Itza and Tikal. I talk a bit about Lake Titicaca and Pumapunku in Bolivia, and of course the sites in Egypt and so on. But it's not strictly a study of the world grid. It's also a study of the cosmologies of the cultures associated with those sites, because I think it's very important, unlike most grid studies, to get an idea of what their actual lore, their local legends, their local tradition, the things that they say about cosmology, about physics, and so on and so forth. So it's a bit of a different kind of approach to the study of the world grid. Some parts of it are very technical, some parts of it are less so. There's some things in it that, in researching this, some imagery, some concepts that I found very disturbing, disconcerting, you might say. So I'm already planning with the friend that I'm writing Grid of the Gods with to write a sequel to that, and we're going to be doing that as a kind of a continuation of the Genes, Giants, Monsters, and Men series. Grid of the Gods kind of fits into that series, but then the book we're planning is going to be even more so. So that's kind of the announcements. I'm hopefully finishing up that book either this weekend or sometime this week, packing it off to Adventures Unlimited. Their turnaround time is much faster than Farrell House, because Adventures Unlimited is not a traditional publisher. They don't hire editors, they don't hire um, people to do fancy artwork and so on. They basically take a manuscript as I give it to them and then pack it off to a printer. So their turnaround time, I'm estimating, is going to be perhaps 2 to 3 months. It may be faster because they've already sent out their catalog and are already going to be getting back orders, so they're going to want to turn the book around as fast as possible. So that should be in the pike fairly soon. So anyway, those are the announcements. And again, as I say every weekend, if things come up this weekend that I think deserve further commentary, then I'll plug back in with another fireside chat. Chances are this weekend it will be very unlikely because I will be working on the final chapter of Grid of the Gods, and that's going to be, unfortunately, that's going to be a very technical chapter trying to tie up all the other chapters in the book. It's going to be about, I estimate, about 350 pages long, give or take, a couple 10 pages. So anyway, that's coming up. Those are the announcements. Anyway, as I said, I did some digging on Japan, and I ran across a couple of articles that I want to mention to you, and I will be blogging these in a written blog, probably for tomorrow's blog, so that you can actually get the links for these articles and also kind of do your own digging from the links that those articles are linked to. But as you know, my primary difficulty thus far with trying to ascribe artificiality to the disaster that happened to the Japanese people has been largely due to the fact, as many people on Facebook have pointed out, the HARP site magnetometer data has gone down. They don't appear to be bringing the site back up anytime soon. I've had a couple people email me some of their research stuff, but they did that in private, so I don't feel like I'm in a position to share what they've come up with. But I'll leave that up to them because the research is very good, and so is their commentary on it. But my own take has been I don't have, to my satisfaction, enough hard data that is also, to my mind, reliable enough to conclude persuasively and to my satisfaction that the Japan quake was artificial. That said, as you know, I've argued that contextually, politically, there does seem to be a context to the event which suggests that it could be something that was artificially induced. And so I ran some searches this morning as I was preparing for this chat because I wanted, if you didn't know some things were happening, I ran a search and I pulled this off of Google, and I don't recall the exact search engine that I use, but I'm planning to blog this. And the title, or the headline of this little article, it's just one short page, says Japan, China, South Korea to hold Tokyo summit. And let me read just the opening paragraph of it. It's just a one sentence paragraph. It says the leaders of Japan, China, and South Korea will hold a 2-day summit in Tokyo from May 21st to discuss nuclear safety, disaster preparedness, and other issues, Japan's government said Friday. Now, I find that very interesting because I've been arguing that Japan has been quietly moving away from the orbit of its alliance and connection geopolitically to the United States. It has been moving very quietly toward a pro-Asian position. It's been making quiet overtures to China. It has been making, incidentally, some technological sales to the Ukraine in Eastern Europe. So Japan has been trying to quietly position itself in a very, very different posture vis-a-vis the United States than it has had up to this point in history. One of the interesting things that I noticed about Japan also was that they are attempting to play down or to draw back some of the American military presence in Japan. Shortly before the quake, the Japanese government, for example, had requested us to remove our base on Okinawa. So all of this politics, to my mind, at least argues contextually for the idea that Japan may have been hit with an artificial quake as kind of a message. But if that's true, then that means the message is being sent by a certain faction with a vested interest to keep Japan in the American geopolitical orbit. And I'm not convinced that the politics, the political circumstances are entirely there for that to be a persuasive argument for this scenario of an artificially induced quake. The other thing I noticed, and I'm going to post this up on my blog as well tomorrow, is that Reuters, I think back in the year 2008, it may have been much later than that, but Reuters ran a report on the fact that the Japanese company called Genepax, Genepax, was planning to release a car that ran on water. All right. And the basic principle of the car was it would crack the hydrogen from water and then use that to power the vehicle electrically. So you'd have a very, very clean car that was not petroleum based at all. And the article went on, or rather the video went on to say that uh, this company was also planning to mass market the car. Now, what this means politically again is Japan and Japanese companies, as part of their energy policy, have been trying to move Japan as fast as they can off of their reliance upon petroleum resources from the Middle East. And this was another step in that direction. And again, that's a vested interest that's under assault. And the vested interest, obviously, are those large Anglo American energy companies with their own deep ties to Middle Eastern oil and petroleum and that whole economy. So Japan, in all of the signals it was sending in the last few years, and particularly with the takeover of the new government in Japan, has been moving away from the Western orbit. And these are the things that, to my mind, in the absence of hard data, that we have to look very carefully at. To me, it's very interesting that they're planning to have this summit. And you'll notice that it is a regional summit. The United States has been deliberately uninvited, if you will. It hasn't been extended an invitation. I'm not even aware if they have asked the United States to send observers to this summit conference. This is solely a conference of the big three Asian economic powers, namely South Korea, China, and Japan. So this to me signals the fact that the other issues that this article that I'm referencing might be talking about is they might be talking about new security arrangements. And it will be very interesting to see if they release any signals, any clues to the fact that they suggest that they were the victims of something artificial. So I would submit to you that we need to watch the statements coming out of that summit conference that Japan, China, and South Korea are planning to have on May 21st. It's going to be a very important conference, and it's going to signal a lot about whether or not this political track that Japan has been on for the last few years is going to continue on course, or if it's not going to continue on course. My guess, my suspicion is that it's going to continue on course and probably even become much more intense on the part of the Japanese government's commitment to it. So anyway, that's a very quick news and views from the Nefarium for April 15th. I do appreciate everybody that's been supporting the website, making comments on the website. I wish I could respond to all of you. I know a lot of you have concerns about some of the things in Genes, Giants, Monsters, and Men, but I'm simply swamped and overwhelmed right now, folks. But I do appreciate the comments. I do appreciate the support. And above all, I appreciate your prayers. Thank you very much. And we'll see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.